Tonight on Joynews Prime, there's been yet another fire in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, the fourth in 2 days.
Really, we despite the first appliance to come, and when it came, we saw that the fire was well alight, and therefore additional appliances are needed. So quickly we sent 2 additional appliances to make it 3 to manage the incident.
MP for Yape Kusagu apologizes for his contribution to the melee in Parliament during last week's election of Speaker.
And so if we had followed the tenets of the Constitution, we wouldn't even have gotten there. But if anybody feels unhappy, feels disturbed about what happened, I apologize to that person.
The Speaker of Parliament has meanwhile been meeting with MPs. We'll share with you the outcome of that meeting. The Ghana Education Service is knocking on doors in Jamestown to ensure girls who may have gotten themselves pregnant during the long COVID-induced break to return to the classroom to continue with their education.
Girls unfortunately have become pregnant when schools were closed, and some of them have been given out into early marriages.
In business, labor expert Austin Gama describes as meager the 10% increase in monthly pensions. He says pensioners deserve more.
Obviously, 10% is not enough and cannot be enough for a pensioner whose livelihood depends perhaps solely on this sort of income.
And later in the bulletin, health authorities are cautioning the public to be wary of stray dogs following an outbreak of rabies in parts of the country.
People die quietly, or they die with some horrific deaths, and because the signs sometimes mimic, these neurological signs, people may attribute some of the death to witches.
My name is Joynews. Joynews Prime is coming to you live from our Fanafa studios at Kokumili here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is a home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. Leader of the NDC caucus in Parliamentary, Idrisu, says the House will cite Greater Accra Regional Police Operations Commander, ACP Kwesi Fori, for contempt over the January 7 storming of the chamber by armed security personnel. That's Mr. Idrisu's response to reports that the Accra Region Police has officially communicated to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, its decision to charge 20 NDC MPs for marching to the headquarters of the Electoral Commission. The Speaker met leadership of the NDC and MPP Tuesday to resolve, among others, which of the two sides will constitute majority and minority. Mr. Idrisu says no agreement was reached on that. He also says he is unaware of the communication to the Speaker from the police.
Cited any official communication on that subject, but as I indicated, we are law-abiding citizens. We proceeded on a procession in accordance with Article 21 of the Constitution. What I also do know now is that ACP Ofori, I also saw him in the chamber on the 9th of 7th January. He probably will have to come and explain to Parliament what he and his men were doing in the chamber and on the floor of Parliament at that material moment, because that is also in contempt of Parliament.
So you mean you drag him before the privileges?
He has to, because he has to demonstrate that he was invited into the chamber by the Marshal of Parliament. And as I indicated to you earlier, we are law-abiding citizens. We embark on a lawful procession, and he has to explain the circumstances in which he got into the Chamber of Parliament. The armed military officers will have to explain how they got to the Chamber of Parliament and why they should also not be hauled for privileges and for contempt of Parliament. What happened is a sacrilege. Our democracy came to a standstill with that interference. But if there's no official communication, as I've always indicated, we are law-abiding. We will challenge the process in court, and we'll get our lawyers to work at it.
But that's why nothing of that sort has come to your attention?
No, officially nothing. As you witnessed, we just had a meeting with the Speaker. No official indication has been given.
We agreed on who sit on the right or the left-hand side of the Speaker.
These are matters to be resolved. As far as we are concerned, we are 137. We expect that there will be some communication which may trigger further discussion on this.
But that hasn't happened yet?
MP for Yape Kusagu John Junapo has meanwhile apologized for kicking down a polling booth during the election of Speaker of Parliament on Thursday. He was also seen on live TV pushing a marshal as he and other colleague MPs protested the decision by the NDC MPs elect to show who they voted for. He explains his action was provoked by an attempt by the NPP to subvert and undermine Parliament's standing orders. Mr. Junapo, however, insists in an interview with Joynews his apology does not betray the position of the party. He spoke with my colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson.
First of all, we exercise our authority on the mandate of the people. The people of Ghana voted for us. We held the view that we were insisting on the constitutional provision, which is that we should vote by secret ballot. And so we go by what the people say. If the people believe that, irrespective of the fact that we had a course of action, but maybe what happened was too high-handed, and that we should apologize to them, we have no problem. I have no problem at all. I think that we serve the people of Ghana. And so what they want is what we do for them. Other than that, you resign. And so it's not an issue for me at all.
So you want to say you apologize to the people for your misconduct, as some have put it?
Well, some have maintained that we stood our ground to defend the Constitution. Some have also insisted that we went too high and that eventually both sides of the divide in terms of leadership, when they met, they agreed that we had a point and that it was not proper for the MPP members to be voting and showing it, and that whilst the Constitution says voting shall be by secret ballot, it ought to be so. And so if we had followed the tenets of the Constitution, we wouldn't even have gotten there. But if anybody feels unhappy, feels disturbed about what happened, I apologize to that person. It's not an issue at all.
Including the Christian Council who are...
I'm a Christian. And the Christian Council, they are pastors. Sometimes they guide us. Okay. I want to believe that they are apolitical. And so when your pastor says that, apologize for what you did, I would willingly apologize to the pastors.
So are you apologizing because they say apologize, or you're apologizing because you have shown remorse and upon sober reflection you realize that perhaps...
Your question was direct, that the Christian Council says this. And I say, yes, I wouldn't argue with them. You asked the question. He said some Ghanaians thought that what you people...
reflection yourself.
Some Ghanaians thought that what you did was not proper. And I say, anybody. You apologize to somebody who is hurt. Somebody who is not happy with your conduct. Somebody who thinks that what you did, they don't like it. That is it. And you alone cannot just judge yourself. Sometimes you also listen to people. And I'm saying that we apologize to them. I don't think we should stretch the matter again.
And finally for me, I mean, your General Secretary described you, Muntaka, as gallant members. And your apology doesn't betray the position of your party?
No, at all.
Because the party said that they were not going to apologize on your behalf.
Yeah, the party
you deserve a national award.
The party even says I deserve a national award.
Correct.
And I'm saying that
apology,
if my pastors feel offended by the action, I apologize to them. That's all. There's no other issue again.
In other news, the Ashanti region capital Kumasi has recorded yet another fire outbreak, the fourth in 2 days. The latest at the popular Swami Magazine Spare Parts Enclave Tuesday caps devastation, which has already rendered scores displaced. The firefighters battling Tuesday's blaze are said to have suffered arm injuries. The fire, which started at the upper part of a two-story warehouse, raised several vehicle spare parts running to thousands of cedis. Ashanti Regional Operations Officer at the Ghana National Fire Service, DO1 Francis Darko Kono, laments access to the fire scene remained a major challenge.
We had a distress call at 0810 hours in the morning that there is an outbreak of fire at Magazine just behind the Methodist Church. And really we dispatched the first appliance to come. And when it came, we saw that the fire was well alight and therefore additional appliances are needed. So quickly we sent 2 additional appliances to make it 3 to manage the incident. The bigger challenge is getting access to the place because the entire place has been packed with broken cars and then other vehicles. So that was one of the hindrances that we had in getting closer to the incident. The situation is under control. Even the fire finally extinguished. What is left is salvaging that we're making to ensure that everything is completely out. Oh, he's stable, he's been sent to hospital and then he's been attended to.
Personnel of the fire service managed to bring the fire under control, but the cause of the inferno is yet to be ascertained. Now, the Swami fire comes just 24 hours after another inferno swept through the Gomba line, a slum in Kumasi Monday evening. Hundreds of people have been rendered homeless as the wooden shacks in which they live were burnt completely. Now, Jima reports it took firefighters close to 2 hours to put out the fire.
Behind me is the destruction that the inferno caused here at the Gomba line, a slum in the Ashanti region, Kumasi to be precise, and most of the people here say they couldn't salvage anything from the inferno. The cause of the inferno is unknown. Not long ago, the fire service were able to douse the fire, but what I'm learning is that there are still some men from the service on the ground trying to completely douse it. And as you can see, there are some owners of these shacks still in here trying to salvage some of the things that they could find. Some are also scavenging from remains of the aluminium and other metals that they can find on the ground. Here are some of the eyewitnesses.
No
one can tell how the fire started. When we all got here, the fire had gotten out of control. So we called in the fire service, but they couldn't get to the fire on time because the inner roads were too small for their vehicles to get to the fire. The service really helped to prevent the fire from spreading. I could take out all my belongings.
Nti omu ye ya na omu timisi ano e wa hase na ade amaye de ntia antimi akọ ekire no anka sa anka ha nyina anka ebeshi mi dan
nti den atimi fa odem
mitimi yimi nema nyina nyame ya aduma bibia enka ye nyina bibia anka me no me nkola na me yere bibia anka ye ene me nuefo no bibia anka ye yatimi ya ye bibia
na so den atimi fa
mentimi fa bibia but me wo bebre ya yetimi ye nema no uche ye mu 20 5 and 6 na etimi yi omunema.
What do you mean, baby? I was at work when they called to tell me about the fire. When I got here, my home was completely burnt.
You're watching Joynews Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. The Ghana Education Service is knocking on doors in Jamestown to encourage the young girls who got themselves pregnant during the long COVID-induced break to get back to school.
Some girls unfortunately have become pregnant when schools were closed, and some of them have been given out into early marriages.
And health authorities are cautioning the public to be wary of stray dogs following an outbreak of rabies in parts of the country.
Will die quietly, or they die with some horrific deaths and because the signs sometimes mimic, these neurological signs, people may attribute some of the death to which is...
Then we'll be back in a bit. The Ghana Education Service is encouraging all girls who became pregnant or gave birth during the COVID-19 induced closure of schools not to shy away when school reopens. Speaking at the national launch of the Back to School and Re-Entry campaign organized by the Ghana Education Service, MasterCard Foundation and UNICEF, Deputy Director of GES, Anthony Boateng, stated some children who also engaged themselves in economic activities such as illegal mining during the break would have to be encouraged to return to school. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
The UNICEF Country Director, the PRO of the Ghana Education Service, Cassandra Chum, and others embarked on a house-to-house campaign to get children at the basic school level back to school after a long break. This is part of the Back to School and Re-Entry campaign program. Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service, Anthony Boateng, says authorities are particularly worried about girls who became pregnant or gave birth during the period.
Some girls unfortunately have become pregnant when schools were closed, and some of them have been given out into early marriages. To motivate such parents, guardians, students and pupils, and indeed the general public to support efforts at ensuring the return of all students and pupils to school, management of Ghana Education Service, with support from some partners, initiated the Back to School campaign. The purpose is to sensitize Ghanaians, especially parents and community members, on the need for all children to return to school when school reopens. This means, therefore, that every Ghanaian child is being welcomed back to school, even including our girls, who for one unfortunate reason or the other got pregnant or gave birth in the course of the school closures. The GES still insists on sexual abstinence among all school children. However, under the current circumstance, we do not want any child to drop out of school simply because of COVID-19. That is why we are encouraging girls who are pregnant or those who have delivered to return to school.
The GES Deputy Director says to ensure there is no overcrowding in especially public basic schools, district directors of education have been tasked to put measures in place to ensure social distancing.
We have done our analysis. We have the figures, and we are saying that we'll be able to manage the situation. There will be some few schools where there will be overcrowding, and because there will be few selected and isolated, we are mandating our district directors who will be in charge of these specific schools to take specific decisions to ensure that the social distancing and the children can still learn in safety and in health.
UNICEF Country Representative Anne-Claire Duffy has been admonishing parents to ensure their children return to school.
Yes, I mean, globally the COVID-19 pandemic has had a terrible impact on children. We have 1.6 billion children that have been affected because they missed out on learning. And in Ghana, we have 8 million children who have also suffered from that situation. But also you have some vulnerable groups, and indeed I mentioned adolescent girls because we are very concerned about the increasing number of girls who have been become pregnant as teenagers, and some of them also got married before the age of 18. Now Ghana has policies and strategies protecting girls from teenage pregnancy and early marriage, but unfortunately with COVID we sort of went backwards, and we are worried that we're going to lose all the gains that were made prior to the pandemic. So first thing is we want to make sure that all the partners continue to work together to prevent teenage pregnancies and early marriage. when it happens, we have programs in place. When I say we, it's the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, to make sure that even if a girl has delivered a baby, that she can go back to school and she gets the support from the family and the community. Because we don't want girls to give up on their dreams and on the future that they deserve. We also are calling on boys and young men to protect those girls, because it's also their responsibility. And the worst I've seen too many times is when, you know, a girl gets pregnant and the boy or the young man disappears. That's not fair.
Now, there are calls from the public for the deployment of security personnel to enforce COVID-19 protocols following widespread disregard for the use of face masks and other preventive measures. The country's coronavirus cases have seen a sharp rise, with the Christmas and New Year festivities largely blamed for the trend. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, speaks to ordinary people about this situation and what can be done to address the problem.
On the streets of Accra and other cities across the country, many are going about their normal activities without face covering. The few who have masks are either keeping them in their bags, pockets, or not wearing them properly. Some, like this woman, attribute this to the bad example showed by the country's political leaders on national TV.
No more TV ni so ekasa ana omo ye bibi ko omo nhye radio so ko omo nhye omo fi se bi omo wo bebe omo wale ho na esem nti omo nhye no so ni wuti TV so na wo ya opanyin no man mu na wo nhye no ni po no so wa bonto omo fi se bi a chese hu hia so obehye.
In March 2020, when President Akufo-Addo imposed a lockdown in Greater Accra, Kumasi and contiguous districts, compliance to COVID-19 protocols was high. Police officers would routinely stop and question those not in masks, whilst authorities deployed task forces to the central business districts to ensure compliance of the no mask, no entry policy. At this time, the country's case count was just 141, with 5 deaths. Today, there are more than 55,000 confirmed cases, 1,200 of them active, 44 severe and 338 deaths. But this is when Ghanaians are being reckless about the disease. Several weeks of electioneering campaigns, Christmas and New Year celebrations have contributed to the rising cases.
I would say 10 days ago that we started having slightly higher cases than discharges. So if you have more cases than discharges, then it tells you that you are going to have an increase in active cases. So I would say that over the past 1 week, there's an increase in number of cases.
Government is already procuring vaccines, but this will not be enough to vaccinate everyone and won't even arrive until at least March 2021. The Ghana Medical Association has confirmed the country's treatment facilities are stretched following an increase in symptomatic cases.
As a country, gradually, we are going to slip as far as COVID-19 is concerned. The situation is that, one, enforcement is not happening at any levels whatsoever. Over the Christmas period till now, I have had calls from over 20 different families who have had COVID one way or the other. And some of them, you talk to them, the system has not even reached out to them to see whether, one, they are doing well or what is happening to them in the first place. Okay. And these are people, per the structure we are running, are supposed to be known to the system. They are doctors or healthcare professionals who will be mapped to these patients to oversee their care, even where they are receiving care at home, i.e. outside the care centers or the hospitals.
Some Ghanaians we spoke to want security personnel deployed to enforce the protocols.
Well, security agents are around, so they should be around to make sure that others are wearing it.
I was not wearing the mask and I went to pass in front of the Ghana police headquarters.
Okay.
But when I saw the policeman standing there, I wore it. Okay, so as you said, the security agencies, if for instance, let's say as we were coming inside, there's a policeman over there ensuring that
people wear their nose mask. My brother was not wearing, unfortunately. So like you'll be told to wear even before he enters this place. So as you said, I think that's what is best to be done.
When it started, they actually said that the police should be the ones enforcing the wearing of nose masks. Now they don't also care. They don't wear it first of all, and they don't also even care.
With new variants spreading like wildfire, everyone would have to take personal responsibility before the security agencies are deployed to compel us. Fred Smith for Joynews.
A recent surge in coronavirus cases in Ghana has been attributed to the Christmas and New Year festivities. The very latest figures coming from the Ghana Health Service on the COVID-19 dashboard indicates that there were 1,330 active cases after 191 new cases were reported by the Ghana Health Service on January 8th. Now, it coincides with the reopening of schools after the long COVID-19 break, and this has got many parents worried about the safety of their wards, as it is not guaranteed the children will comply with the protocols. Judith Tando has been interacting with a parent and has more in this report.
Meet 40-year-old Theresa Brown. She is a mother of 4 and is teaching her children how to wear face masks as schools prepare to reopen.
Anytime you have to wear the nose mask, you sanitize your hand first. What did I say?
Sanitize your hands first.
Good. And then make sure that anytime you are holding a nose mask, you are holding this side of it. Okay. You don't hold here, because you are coming to use this place to cover your nose. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You check both sides. There's the part where it's very hard. It's a bit harder than the other side. That side will come up. So you look at me. Will come up, and then you wear it this way.
As a mother, it has been difficult explaining to her children not to hug and shake hands with other children. With COVID-19 cases rising, she is worried about how her children will cope.
The very little one, the one, he's about 7 years old, and sometimes you will see he will pull his nose mask down. I put it back, and I'm tired. I'm just tired. I can't breathe. And you can't do anything about it. You can't say you should remove it because he needs it to protect him. And it's been difficult. It's been difficult trying to get them to come to the realization that this is the life now. This is the norm now. And things has to be done the right way.
Mrs. Brown is encouraging other parents to take nutrition seriously to boost the immune system of their children.
We are looking at even for them building their immune system, because when they go to school, they are not able to eat well. They will leave home very early in the morning, maybe take a little breakfast. And then when they are in school, they have to take their snack, and they have to also take their lunch at school. For me, I prepare the food from the house. And so if the children are not able to eat it at school when it is cold, that will mean that they will go and come back and have not eaten lunch cold, because they can't eat. Immune system cannot be built.
She admits the uncertainty of adhering to safety protocols and argues that it is more dependent on parents than teachers to ensure the safety of their children.
Surety, no. I would also not say I'm afraid, because I am not the type who entertain fear. And so we would have to hope that things will go well, and hope that parents will keep on, will not stop educating their children. The teachers can do just a little at school. So the burden is now on the parents to consistently do that.
Learning to live with the virus appears challenging, but until many are vaccinated against the virus, the world would have to learn to deal with a new normal. Judith Tando for Joynews.
We're taking a break again here on Joynews Prime, but we still have that Rabies story and the warning coming up. But up next, after the break, we're bringing you business. And labor expert Austin Game is describing as meager the 10% increase in monthly pensions. He says pensioners deserve more.
Obviously, 10% is not enough and cannot be enough for a pensioner whose livelihood depends perhaps solely on this sort of income.
Stay tuned in. We'll be back in a bit.
Hello there, welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aitib. A 10% monthly pensions increment is not enough. That's according to labor expert and CEO of Game & Game Group, Austin Game, who believes that pensioners deserve more. Recently, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, moved to ensure that all pensioners on its pension payroll as at December 31st, 2020, will have their monthly pension increased by a fixed rate of 9.34%. That's 9.34%, representing the annual average price inflation, plus a redistributed flat amount of 6 cedis 47 pesos. But speaking with my colleague earlier on Business Live, Ms. Agami says that SNIT could be doing better in its affairs if indeed government does not interfere.
Ordinarily, 10% may sound quite good, but in the present state of our, living, obviously 10% is not enough and cannot be enough for a pensioner whose livelihood depends perhaps solely on this sort of income. Because you and I know that pensioners, most of them, or a lot of them, do nothing again. That's all they live on. And so it certainly is not enough, and they could have gotten more. But that's what they have in the interim, and that's perhaps why we are discussing it now.
I've heard people say last year was a difficult year because of the pandemic, and SNIT has had so much responsibility on it. That takes me to the next point, because today I heard you on radio, you made a point about less involvement of government in the operations of SNIT.
Certainly going forward, I certainly desire and I wish those who constitute the board will recognize the enormity of the assignment on their head to ensure that the investable funds are really put into good use for high yielding returns, so that they can in turn organize and pay the pensioners a better pension. Clearly, we all know how governments yesterday and government today and tomorrow to come will continue to be sourcing funds from SNIT if possible. SNIT itself, the management team, if you like, the board of directors or trustees, perhaps not fully investing the fund as we expected them to do. And so it is very important at this point in time that all of us, putting aside the so-called partisan so-called politics, confront this issue headlong.
Well, the Trade Union Congress has pledged its unflinching support to the National Unemployment Insurance Scheme announced by the Finance Minister last year, but wants its swift implementation. The move formed part of government's efforts to address the impacts of COVID-19 that has been, had its own toll on various jobs across the country. Here's more from a statement released by the TUC. Last year, the Finance Minister announced an insurance scheme for employees that may suffer job losses as part of the post-coronavirus recovery plan. Government had projected about 7 to 10% unemployment rate in the country this year, a situation the Labour Union urges government to swiftly conclude the process for the scheme before the end of the first quarter to commence operations. The TUC also expects a pay increase for all public sector workers to be captured in the budget and economic policy. The budget is expected to be presented to Parliament in March this year. Ghana's minimum wage has been hovering around $2 a day over the last decade. Last year, the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations in a report said the country's minimum wage will go up by 11% to 11 cedis 82 pesos, a figure the TUC is expecting to go up further in the next budget statement. The TUC has already written to the Employment and Labour Relations Ministry requesting the National Tripartite Committee meeting to commence negotiations of the national minimum wage for this year. We expect the negotiation of the national minimum wage and base pay for 2021 to be concluded before the national budget is presented to Parliament in March 2021 this year, the TUC stated. The National Insurance Commission says it is hopeful of implementing the new insurance law this year after it was approved by President Akufo-Addo. Now, the Insurance Bill 2020 was taken through consideration by Parliament in December last year, and it is targeted at increasing the insurance penetration in the country, which currently remains low at about 1%. The Deputy Commissioner of Insurance, Michael Kofi Ando, spoke to Joy Business at the launch of Alliance Life Insurance New Education Policy. That is the Alliance EduFlex plan.
You must have seen from the newspapers that the bill has been passed already. So it was passed by the former parliament. So the bill is already passed. It was passed before the former parliament was dissolved.
So what is next after the bill being passed?
Implementation, of course. We just need to implement the new things. We need to grow the industry and make insurance more attractive, create stronger insurance industry, and make grow the penetration. So yes, to sum it up, implementation is next.
So when should we expect that this will be implemented?
Well, I'm sure you're aware that once the bill is passed by Parliament, it needs a presidential assent from the president, and then it becomes an act. So once it's an act, the implementation starts. So once it's signed into an act, the implementation will start. The NIC will come out with some transitional arrangements because there are a number of things that we need to plan for. So we'll come out with transitional arrangements.
Well, that ends it for business. I'm Charles IHS Sports is up next.
And thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime Time to bring you sports. My name is Hans Mensah, and on good news from the camp of the national under-17 football team. The Black Starlets have been eliminated from the ongoing WAFU under-17 Cup of Nations in Togo. Ghana suffered a 3-1 defeat to Cote d'Ivoire to exit the competition in the group stages. The national under-17 men's team secured just a point after 2 games and needed only a draw to book a place in the last 4.
It's a free kick at an advantageous position for the Ivorians. Could this be the first goal for the Ivorians? He hits it. Oh, way off target. Way off target. It is still 0-0 after 8 minutes of game played. Long ball inside. The Ivorians clear their lines. He's sending across. No, he dummies his marker. Sent it back to Abdurrahmani, who controls the ball beautifully. It's a goal for Abdurrahmani Konate. Ivory Coast coming in strongly. Could it be the second goal? It's a goal! Ivory Coast with the second goal. Ivory Coast with the second goal. Miesian Charles Limba with the second goal for the Ivorians. Ghana down by 2-0. It is becoming a daunting task at this moment to Jire. Leave this one. Ghana takes over. The captain of the side. Leaves it to John, who sends a long one in, looking for Abdul Fattah. Fattah beats his marker. Abdul Fattah sends one back. And it's a goal! The Black Starlet of Ghana pulls one back. attack. The Black Star.
Not the sort of result expected as Ghana's under-17, the Black Starlets, exit the WAFU Under-17 Championship. Now, Communications Director of Mediama Sporting Club has hailed the capture of Ahmed Toure, insisting the Ivorian striker will help improve the club's goal-scoring form. The former Asante Kotoko attacker, who has signed a 2-year deal with the Mauve and Yellows, has returned to the Ghana Premier League after ending his stay at Guinean top flight side AS Kalum last December. Mediama have won just 2 out of 8 games played, scoring 10 goals so far in the process. And that is why they've brought a seasoned 33-year-old Ghana Premier League campaigner.
Mediama is, it's an enviable brand, as you do know. And a lot of players, quality players, want to associate themselves with the Mauve and Yellows. We do recognize that we have struggled in the final third on the field. And it was extremely important that we go for a proven goal scorer, somebody who has demonstrated the panache for scoring in the Ghanaian league. And we think and believe that he has the competence and the quality to help our team this season. We have struggled in the early part of the season, largely because we do not appear to have a very potent striker. We dominate, very difficult to dispossess us, but the one to bury the ball into the net has always been a major sticking point for us. We have absolute confidence in the current crop of players that we have, and getting Ahmed Toure will only add up to the spice. We know the quality of Ahmed Toure. We know what he's done in his previous 6-time chances with different clubs, especially with Kotoko and Bechem as well at some point. He's a clinical finisher.
Manchester United are up against Burnley at 8:15 p.m. They win that game and they go top of the Premier League, 3 points clear of Liverpool. That is your starting lineup. You've seen David De Gea in post, Eric Bailly, Harry Maguire, the skipper, Paul Pogba, Edinson Cavani, Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, Aaron, and Nemanja Matic completing the starting 11 for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tonight in their game against Burnley. Right, that's comment. We'll bring you more later in the bulletin.
Right, it's time for Showbiz, and Becky Bex is here. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Easy. How you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fantastic. Obo is in the news. Obo is explaining to us the reason why he thinks that entertainers are supposed to be in Parliament, are supposed to make decisions or be part of decision making. Because, you know, a lot of people over the years think that, well, entertainers or anybody else
are not serious people.
Are not serious people. So he's been explaining to us exactly why he thinks that entertainers like us deserve to.
John Dumelo.
Yes.
Need to establish that Parliament is not a reserve for lawyers, for doctors, for teachers, or any particular profession. It's open to every Ghanaian. And if teachers, hairdressers, doctors, lawyers have a table at Parliament, why don't we have a strong voice for the creative arts practitioners? Why don't we have a musician? Why don't we have an actor? So I think we taking that bold decision to go into national politics, venture into Parliament, go there to push the agendas, also bring the perspective of the creative artist, the perspective of the musician, goes a long way to adding to the respect for the profession and also the self-esteem that people in the profession have.
Yeah, that was Bice Osei Kufuor, popularly known as Opo.
He actually attempted to go to Parliament.
Yeah, but he lost. But, I mean, he's looking forward to the next 4 years on the ticket of the MPP.
Yeah.
Creamy right there.
And that reminds me of the Ghanaian the Ghanaian doctor who's in China.
China, yeah. We should have a conversation. We should check on him soon. Yeah.
All right.
I miss him already.
But thank you very. Oh, before we go though, what's the very latest on Bulldog?
Bull apparently has been moved from the BNI office to the CID's office, so he's spending the night.
He's still in custody.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Becky Bex, for bringing us showbiz. That'll be it for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime. There's more news on the Joynews channel. Health officials are warning of an outbreak of rabies across the country, which is causing mysterious deaths that families are wrongfully blaming on spiritual attacks. The outbreak has been traced to an attack by some hunting dogs on their owners some weeks back in the Bonkatamanso municipality. The public is therefore being urged to be on the lookout for stray dogs that may want to interact with their pets, as they are known to be the main carriers of the deadly virus. Latif Idris has been to the municipality where it is believed to have all started and filed this report.
Dogs are known to be the main source of rabies transmission to human. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, dogs are causing 99% of rabies transmission to human. Rabies kills not less than 100 Ghanaians annually, a trend that can be eliminated with an aggressive vaccination campaign. But until then, infected dogs spread the virus by biting unsuspecting owners and fellow canines.
I was holding it so that the water would dry off, then we'll put him back to the cage. Then all of a sudden it bit me on my leg.
17-year-old Emmanuel Donko had a grim experience with his favorite puppy a few days ago. He explains what started as fun quickly turned sour.
We woke up in the morning and the dog was restless. It was running up and down, and my big brother asked we to bath for it. So we bathed for it, and I was holding it so that the water would dry off. Then we'll put him back to the cage. Then all of a sudden it bit me on my leg.
His only luck was that he was rushed to the hospital almost immediately after the bite, where laboratory tests conducted on the puppy later revealed it had been infected with rabies. His elder brother, Nathaniel Noy Adumwa, who trains and takes the dogs hunting, is worried the outbreak could affect the other dogs.
We don't stigmatize the dogs. Yeah, we don't stigmatize the dogs. Like maybe how coronavirus came and people were stigmatized. The rabies.
How coronavirus has come. It has not gone away yet.
Okay. So how coronavirus has come and people have been stigmatized. Like corona patients have been stigmatized. Yeah, but we don't do that. So we still love our dogs.
Dr. Emmanuel Kwaopeku is Municipal Veterinary Officer for Bonkatamanso. He is worried there is a high chance of recording a lot more cases if deliberate and aggressive steps are not taken to test dogs, particularly the many stray ones in the area.
When you come to this enclave, over the past few months, rabies has become one of the biggest challenge now, not just in Bonkatamanso, but Tema Metro, Tema West. We've reported cases in the last quarter of the year. So it's actually something that really is actually worrying, and it's something that we really have to look at it as a country. As a nation, we are just looking at COVID and other things, but we are not thinking about rabies.
Even more worrying for him is the rate of spread.
Now, the spread is between the domestic dogs. Now, most of these cases, that when you go and investigate, they will tell you that these dogs that get come down with rabies, at the end of the day, they fight with a lot of dogs, community dogs, and they also end up transmitting it to other dogs within the community.
Even as preliminary investigations are being carried out to unravel the cause of the outbreak, Director of Veterinary Services at the Greater Accra Veterinary Directorate, Dr. Edu Kuma, tells Joynews the rabies outbreak is widespread and silently killing many people.
Ghana is endemic to rabies, so we have outbreaks all over the country. Depending on how it's reported and depending on how it's being reported out there, people might not hear. People die quietly or they die with some horrific deaths. And because the signs sometimes mimic, I mean, these neurological signs, people may attribute some of the death to witches and, I mean, other reasons. I mean, witchcraft, which may not be necessarily reported to the medical officers, the health authorities, as that is rabies. Because you need to know the signs of rabies in human beings. You need to link it to, I mean, a dog bite some time ago before you can draw those conclusions that this is rabies.
He has also asked parents to keep an eye on their children as they are more vulnerable to catching the virus.
A lot of the cases are also in children. Primary school children, I mean, you see a large percentage are in children who may not report it to their parents. You see the height of children. So yes, you are an adult, when you see a dog that you don't know, you are not going to get near to it. But children at that level with the dogs, they almost at the same height. So yes, the dog also may attack the children.
Rabies kills about 70,000 people annually globally, and with 9 years away from the 2030 target of eliminating human deaths from rabies, only aggressive and comprehensive vaccination will help Ghana achieve that target.
7 Chinese nationals have been arrested by the Environmental Sustainability Task Force in the Western region, with 10 excavators seized in the process. The renewed onslaught seeks to save the country's natural resources affected by illegal mining activities by Chinese nationals who have found safe haven in the region. Labour firm Erastus Asaridonko followed the team of armed military and police personnel to the Tabosiri Forest Enclave close to Diaso, and our report.
The team stormed the Tabosiri Forest Enclave and caught these Chinese miners by surprise. They have invaded the forest, destroying natural resources spanning about 10 football fields.
It looks like there is no end to this illegal mining craze. Now, deep within the Tabosiri Forest Enclave, you could see over 10 excavators within this forest, destroying it with impunity.
The Oda River, which runs through this forest, has turned milky mud with no sign of life. The thick forest cover has been depleted, with scenes of tree species cut and buried in mud.
Commander, do any problem?
One of the commanders loses balance as we thread dangerous routes, the only link between these illegal mining sites. The team lent many of the miners destroying this forest have no permits.
So far, nobody has been able to show us any legal documents binding their operations here.
One of them is Alhaji Issa Odati, who had physical confrontation with the task force. He claims the concession was awarded to him by the Minerals Commission, but has no documents to prove. This site was given to us by the Minerals Commission. I'm into small-scale mining. We are not given any documents. Concessions are given to miners.
Every month we pay 20,000.
We pay 20,000 Ghana cedis every month. It's part of the community mining regime. At this site, where we found close to 12 excavators, the supervisor, Wan Umar, said they were mining with permission from some powerful people.
Hello, Director.
Later, a man who identified himself as Charles Owusu, a relative of the late Sir John, claimed ownership of the illegal mining site, begging the team to leave the site. task force removed all the excavators and transported them across the Oda River. In all, 10 excavators were effectively tracked out of the forest. 7 Chinese miners were arrested and transported to Accra for prosecution.
The environment here is begging to be saved. These trees you see behind me, some have been standing for hundreds of years, will be no more if no action is taken. Reporting for Joynews, Erastus Asaredonko, Tabosre, Western Region.
Meanwhile, leader of the now defined task force established by the dissolved Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Francis Asibu, has blamed the seeming failure on leadership. Francis Asibu, who commended security operatives for effectively discharging their duties, blamed chairman of the committee, Professor Frimpong Boateng, for lacking the competence to analyze and act on the many security intelligence that was provided to him by members of the task force. He spoke with my colleague Ernest Kojomenu.
Natural justice informed by reports written and submitted to the committee by myself and the supervision of exhibit and the performance on the field, I can say emphatically that we had chopped almost 89% success in that fight and that the fight was not a failure. Notwithstanding, I can say that if there is anything to write home about, the leadership was the problem. And I think that a committee that is supposed to be concerned with security issues, particularly when the interior was part of the committee, defense was part of the committee, the chairmanship, where it failed, is the cause of what we have experienced today.
Are you talking of the leadership of the committee or the leadership of the security aspect?
The leadership of the committee, because if you have defense and interior on the committee, and then there is a minister from environment, chairman, who had vetoed the whole operation, you can see what it is. What are the report lines? Where do they get to? How are security issues analyzed? And so if there is any failure, it is not from the field. The failure starts from the leadership.
Elsewhere, residents of Danso in the Bosomifra district of the Ashanti region are angry over illegal mining activities in the area. The residents want an immediate end to the menace, which they say is impacting negatively on their livelihoods. Mahmoud Mohameduddin reports.
Clad in red, the angry residents stage a protest against the destruction of their forest.
Some people have taken the law into their own hands and decided to destroy the forest, which will benefit the country in the future. We are not going to let that happen here. We stood against it some time ago and the issue went to sleep. But they have come to destroy all the forest again.
I'm 53 years now. They have destroyed the forest and the seedlings, and we are going to face hunger sooner. We are pleading with His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo to come and help with the people of Bosome Danso, for we are indeed suffering. I'm a strong NPP member. I've been with them for the past 23 years, and I've been so loyal. Therefore, we want His Excellency to pay attention to our grievances.
Cocoa farmers, especially women, lament the destruction of the only source of water in the area.
I am a 70-year-old woman who is into cocoa farming. I have vowed not to give any cocoa land to them. About 20 different people approached me about it, but I refused, and now they are resorted to using different means. Galamseyers are just causing problems for the government, and we at the villagers are really going through hell.
Ekwanya mo nam so ayetu niemegua no ye babaka. Ye babaka. Ama sese ya no ya ne won kurase no ye ho kire yen. Efia kwini omni abapreswa. Ana ye wura bi ye friend wuli. Ana osoli gina ya. About 9 years ago, since we have been fighting against illegal mining until a certain gentleman called Willie stood up and the activities went down. Today, we are back again to destroy our own water body. When we travel out of the community, the spirit of the water body
They want measures taken to protect the forest reserve. Opani Kwabena Che is the leader of the group.
What we want to tell the government is that we only feed from these farms, and that is all we have. But the illegal miners have destroyed our farms and forest reserve. We have only one mechanized borehole, and when there is light out, we fall on the river. We are pleading with the government to come to our aid and address the situation before it becomes worse.
District Chief Executive Yao Danso is yet to respond to calls on measures to help address the concerns of the residents. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Now, Chief Whip of the NDC caucus in Parliament, Muntaka Mubarak, has welcomed suggestions that the Chief Justice should probe his claims that the Supreme Court judge was a conduit of bribe proposals to NDC MPs to get them to vote Professor Michael Quay as Speaker. Dean of the UPSA Law School, Dr. Kofi Aboji, asked for the allegation to be investigated, and Mr. Mubarak says his caucus will be ready to provide evidence to any team the Chief Justice assigns. Asked whether the minority will petition the Chief Justice over the issue, he says that would amount to Parliament interfering in the work of the judiciary.
And I think that will be right, because that gives all of us the opportunity to put some of these things beyond just mentioning. But we'll look forward to whatever they may want to do, and I can assure you that if it becomes necessary for that, we will appear there with our evidence.
And do you have that necessary evidence to back up?
Well, I will not have to tell you in public. I mean, obviously, we mention it, and we'll prepare ourselves. If it becomes necessary, all those things will be put to public domain.
Will you be interested in, on your own, reaching out to the Office of the Chief Justice with the said evidence?
You see, one of the major things that, I mean, in democracy, that a lot of people are not mindful of, executive and legislature sometimes is much closer, but the three arms of government mostly are supposed to operate independent of each other. So, as a member of Parliament reaching out to the judicial arm, I find that in our democratic settings or in a well-established democracy, not proper. It's not for me. If I strongly feel about it, I should raise it on the floor of the House and ask this House to form a committee to investigate it. But not to go and be encouraging another arm of government and be telling them what to do. It's not, I mean, that doesn't foster very good practice in a democratic dispensation such as ours.
Is that something you may consider doing, raising it on the floor for the necessary?
Well, I mean, I would not want to say much about what we are doing, because remember that also is part of our strategy. And how we are managing our caucus. I don't think I want to say much about this, especially to the public.
Satisfaction with the measures put in place by management to prevent the spread of COVID-19 following the reopening of the school on Monday. Many students could be seen without their face masks as they went about their business disregarding the other preventive protocols such as social distancing. Meanwhile, the university is assuring it will do more to ensure strict adherence to the protocols by both staff and students. Joynews' Kweku Asante was on campus earlier and filed this report.
The University of Ghana reopened for this year's academic year on Monday, 11 January 2021, but with concerns about the lack of adherence to government's COVID-19 preventive protocols. The first day on University of Ghana campus after reopening was an eyesore. Some students went about their manual registration without face coverings, with very little or no social distancing. Today, the story was a bit different. Most students were seen in their face coverings going through their residential and academic registration. Some students of the university are dissatisfied with the measures put in place by the school to limit the spread of the virus.
I wasn't really, happy with that particular initiative. Bringing students in a room where you realize that we have accommodation deficit. And I have always said that this accommodation deficit would only be solved only if you build hostels. And I think it's one of the most important things that the university management must take into consideration. You cannot accommodate 4 people in a room, whereby we are well aware that the COVID is still increasing. The cases are increasing. Today we have about 1,261 COVID cases, and you are keeping 4 students in a room.
The university seems not to have put measures in place to deal with issues of COVID-19. The basic one is the wearing of nose masks. So you realize that across the 4 facilities we are in right now, many people are not wearing their nose masks, but they are able to enter into the various halls. Primary among the COVID-19 protocols is the washing of hands before you enter any facility. You would expect that every other hall you get to, there are, Veronica buckets and so on for people to wash their hands. None of that is being done. You would expect that people's temperatures will be checked. None of that is being done. So I'm wondering whether the essence of the whole double track thing is to control COVID.
I would say that there's more room for improvement. I wouldn't say that we have put in place totally watertight mechanisms to prevent the spread of COVID. They are enforcing a no mask, no entry policy. There are taps here that people are supposed to, wash their hands with the water that is flowing from before they enter. I think for now, these are the mechanisms that have been put in place.
Meanwhile, Dean of Student Affairs at the University of Ghana, Professor Alufa Bobkin, says the university has put in place adequate measures to ensure adherence to COVID-19 preventive protocols and also to ensure that what happened on the first day of reopening does not happen again.
It was a bit, I wouldn't say a surprise, because the numbers that came yesterday was just too huge. And because it was the first mover advantage, it was difficult trying to tell them that you had selected a bed online, you were not going to lose it. So take your time, be in the line. Some also came with their parents and all of that. So that was a challenge. We observed that ourselves, and we apologize for what happened. Word had gone out to all the halls. In fact, yesterday on the hall masters and senior tutors platform, we discussed this, that look, what we observed yesterday from our point of view wasn't even the best for us and for our own safety and our staff and all of that. So, and I am happy to some extent today, because I'd gone around again this morning, and I'm happy to some extent what I'm observing, that at least we are learning from the errors of yesterday, and we are not at the peak of it, more or less, in terms of observing all the protocols, because I still see students walking around without the nose mask and all of that. But we have incorporated all of this in the orientation for all freshmen.
Professor Bobkin also defended the decision to fully populate the halls of residence on campus.
We did so also in line with health advice, that in the annexes, where it's a bit spacious and airy, it's okay to put 4 in a room, but in the main halls it's 3 in a room, 2 outer, 1 inner. This is also based on advice from the University of Ghana Emergency Response Team, which advises the university holistically on this pandemic. So we are just working in line with the advice from health experts.
Although the university will undertake a large part of its academic modules online, there are still concerns that with halls of residence and hostels populated fully, the risk of the spread of the virus may be high.
Staying with COVID, the pandemic is on the rise while the virus keeps spreading. Protocols put in place to curb spread seem to have been ignored as business and markets boom. Judith Awotwe-Tando has been interacting with some traders and customers at the Nima and Malata market, and has more in this report.
Here I am at the Nima Market Center, where business is booming as usual. But even with the COVID-19 pandemic still in the system, the safety protocols are not being observed. Market women here say that the pandemic no longer exists.
Debbie, me di say nyami. I believe
God has taken away the virus because of the prayers we've made.
Because mpaibo aye bopa nyame aye den aye bibia amaye.
There baby no. Ebi no if
COVID-19 was truly in the system, we would have all been dead by now. I'll never get the virus. God forbid.
Outside Ghana. Oh, there be me I reject it. Me that.
There's no virus. It's no longer in the system.
You see, you're 2 weeks.
We were told the virus would last for 2 weeks. But it's been a year now. We still don't know anyone with the virus. The situation at the Malata Market Center is not any different. Most local traders and customers do not seem to be bothered about the rising cases.
But since that last year, this incident has happened, we haven't seen any cases that arise that maybe you see that you can just point this one, say that this one gets that infected of that disease. So as for me, I'm not sure that it has been in the system. No. If it's not there, I'm not sure that maybe I can get it.
We are tired of hearing about this virus. Our blood is surely thicker than the virus. Safety protocols serve to protect the individual and public from the harmful effects of the virus. Wearing the mask is one of them. Mask up. That's the plea of Ghana's health officers who are worried about the rising cases. Judith Awotritando for Joynews.
We're taking a break here on Joynews Prime. We'll have more business up next. Stay tuned.
Hello there, you're welcome to business. The cost of transacting business under the Continental Free Trade Agreement area will see a drastic reduction. This is because the Africa Export and Import Bank has pledged an amount of $500 million to support the ongoing projects of the Common Payment Platform for all member countries under the Trade Pact. The Secretary General, Wamkele Mene, disclosed this at a press conference today.
We all need money, very important.
Ghana is ranked 12 among African countries that export to countries that are signatories to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Indeed, the nation accounts for 17% of total exports to the 54 member countries on the continent, and that comes as a good omen for the nation because businesses and traders can leverage to be able to compete favorably with their peers on the African continent. Clearly, among ECOWAS countries, Ghana is doing better and is placed second after Ivory Coast. But in terms of the intra-African trade on the continent, it is not doing so much well. But overall, Ghana's position is not bad because if we are able to export enough to African countries, then we'll be able to bring in a lot of foreign inflows. It will improve upon our trade surplus, our balance of payment as well, and therefore help the cedi to become stable. But the other good thing is that businesses can then be able to expand. And expansion is very key because that is when businesses can be able to bring in or recruit new employees or offer jobs to the people. So that is what we are looking at. If you look at this rankings, it tells you that Ghana could bring in more foreign inflows to stabilize its currency and help build its macroeconomic fundamentals. And secondly, it offers opportunities to businesses to expand their operations and therefore offer opportunities to many Ghanaians to have job to do. And also traders will be able to benefit because then they will also be able to move around the continent to buy and sell.
Well, the Chamber of Entrepreneurs has outlined several ventures entrepreneurs can leverage on as investment and business opportunities. This comes in the wake of entrepreneurs scouting profitable avenues to make some cash this new year amid what has now become the new normal, that is COVID-19. Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, Sherry Gali, spoke to me earlier on the marketplace.
Yes, we all need money, very important. But before we can discuss this, I would like us to have two things in mind, given that last year wasn't that of a good year for businesses because of COVID-19. But also 2020, in a way, is a bit good because of the introduction of AFTA, because now, for example, if you have business in Ghana, like I said, you should know that you now have a bigger market. How do you position yourself very well? Maybe I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk more about AFTA and how businesses can position themselves. But some of the businesses that will really boom, if you analyze very well, especially for 2021, apart from businesses that deal on the three basic things, basic needs of life, the food, clothing, and shelter. Aside that, we should be looking forward for the tech businesses. The tech-enabled businesses, especially e-commerce, is on the rise. You can see the figures on everywhere. Now people are confident with ordering or buying things from line. They don't even walk to the shops so much as we used to see it. And then mobile apps. If you're an investor, you do not necessarily need to be a tech person, but look for tech guys and invest in them. This year is one of the years mobile applications that solve basic needs will be on the rise. And then we also look at online educational system. Yes, because of COVID-19, people and educational system have seen the need for online learning platform. Identify schools, get IT guys, invest in them, let them develop very nice educational system, sell them to these schools. Definitely you will be able to get some of them, and it's going to actually be in the rise. And then digital marketing is one of the things, because now a lot of people are on the digital platform. Businesses are finding ways and means of getting their products to them. So if you are able to invest in digital marketing, is going to help. Cybersecurity, I'm still on the tech level. Cybersecurity is also one. You know, tech is very broad, but I'm giving the key areas that can really fetch money in 2021. Cybersecurity applications is also one, because of a lot of people are on the digital space, and cyber is one of the things. Cybercrime is on the rise. So yes, investors can invest their money in cybersecurity. One other area which is also still within the tech is fintech, financial technology, where you can lend monies to people. Imagine you have 10,000 Ghana cedis, you are lending to about 10 people, and at the end of 30 days, each one is paying 12%. You are going to make about 125% of the money you are lending to them. So you can imagine. So fintech is one of the things that will be on the rise, because people now prefer to be on their phone to do their financial transactions instead of going to the bank, and people be willing to borrow. I'm sure if MTN should give us quick loan figures, you will see how they are making a lot of money. So fintech is one of them that we need to, investors can take a look at. And then the production of health equipment, we already know that the masks, the sanitizers, and the rest, PPEs, there are things that will continue to be on the rise until we hear that COVID-19 is finally over. And then we also look, one other business that will likely grow is the delivery business. Or we call them courier business. Delivery is one of them that will grow, because a lot of delivery services will be needed. We don't know what will happen. As COVID is now showing other version 2.1 and version 3, we don't know what will happen, but we don't pray for any version. But then the delivery service is one of the business that can also be ventured. And then consulting, especially in health and accounting. You see, a lot of businesses have failed in the COVID-19 era when it comes to finance. So they need professional accountants that can help them to get their finances back. So if you are one that has that background, put yourself out there. Is one of the areas you can make money. If you are a doctor, you are a nurse, it's also one of the areas you can consult for people. And then finally, the almighty agriculture. You know that one never had any effect. It is still going to grow. So if you have money and if you're an investor, this is the time for you to go into farming, get a cash crop, invest in it, and then you come back today and tell us how much you've made.
And I trust that you took down some notes. That's how we end business with me, Charles Aite. Sports is up next.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joynews Prime Time to bring you the second installment of Sports. And Accra Great Olympics have named Yao Puekon as their interim head coach due to the absence of head coach Anna Walker. Walker, who has steered the Wonder Club to some famous victories this season, is suffering from illness and has been excused from duty by the club and the management.
Olympics appointed former Black Satellites head coach Yao Preko on the interim to steer the affairs of the clubs, as head coach Anna Walker is currently on sick leave. Walker, who has steered the Wonder Club to some famous results in the Premier League this season, is suffering from illness and has been excused from duty by club's management. The former Brecum Chelsea assistant coach was not in the dugout for the last 2 games against Ediana Stars and Ashanti Gold, which they lost their first back-to-back defeats of the season. And Opreko, who led Ghana's under-20 team to participate in the 2019 All-Africa Games football competition, was confirmed on Tuesday and is expected to lead the team until Walker is available. The former Ghana international has been coaching since 2013. He has been an assistant coach at Accra House of Oak, King Faisal, and Nigerian side Ifeanyi Oba. Olympics have won 11 points after 8 games in the Ghana Premier League.
A chairman of the Ghana League Clubs Association, Kujo Fiano, has urged Kumasi Asante Kotoko not to withdraw from the CAF Confederations Cup. The Porcupines accuse the continent's football governing body of lack of respect and have threatened not to participate in the competition where they've been drawn against ES Setif. However, Fiano, a former CEO of Ashanti Gold, wants Kotoko to honour the games in the CAF Confederations Cup.
We are in crisis, and instead of resolving the crisis, we are rather compounding. Now, if we don't take time, both the Confederation Cup and the Champions League, home teams will use this COVID, will manipulate the system and win matches off the pitch. I don't think it is right. Being a Ghanaian, yes, I'm hurt by the way Kotoko is treated. And these continental competitions take a lot of resources from participants. So after investing all this money and you're given a raw deal, I will plead that they give a second thought to the withdrawal from, because we are losing out. We used to have 4 reps, now there are 2. So if we start pulling out from competitions, it could hurt our progression to get back the 4. So I will plead with them to reconsider that decision. And I think the best thing to do was what they did by going to CAS. But the issue is how timeously can CAS rule on this matter for Kotoko to get justice. And the draw for the Confederation. Yes, I mean that another tough one. We should play. We should all help them as Ghanaians. To who knows? They say when one door is closed, another one is opened. Who knows? This could be an opportunity for them to win the Confederation Cup that eluded them 2002 or thereabout. So I will plead. I know it is hard to take, but as I said, the hand of God got England out of the World Cup. But life must go on.
On to some boxing now, where former trainer of Ikote, Daniel Okor-Dampton, wants Ghanaian boxers to be assessed before they accept fight abroad. According to him, most boxers appear ill-prepared for their fights.
In recent times, boxing promoters have put in enough effort to ensure boxers have a platform to hone their talent. Ghana's renowned boxing trainer Daniel Okor-Dampton, who led Ag Bazooka Korte to win a world title in 1994, has praised the boxing promoters for the effort they've put into building the sport.
Promotions, I think people are doing really well. If you think about, you promote, you don't get nothing out of it. It's not like US that maybe the TV can help. Or the fighters, what they do in the US now is fighters have to sell tickets. They have to put you on the card. You have to sell tickets, for the promoter to get some money. So maybe they promote the fight and they give you 50 tickets. Every fighter they give you ticket to sell. Some can sell 100. Some the crowd pullers can sell more. So they are always on the card. So they give you ticket to sell, and then the promoter can get his money back. But here, there's no way you can do that. Even if you charge 2 cedis, only few people will pay.
Yeah.
Only few people will pay. I understand that, because how this is where I come from. I know how it works here, So they're doing well, very good with promotions. They're doing very, very well.
Many Ghanaian boxers struggle to compete against the best continentally and at the global level. Oko Odamintin wants boxers to be assessed before they accept fights beyond the shores of the country.
It's just sad to see, like sometimes, you stay and then watch the fight, or sometimes you buy it, you watch it, and then they show no resistance at all. First, second round, and they're out. So for me, I think they should take a little time. There should be somebody to assess them to make sure they're ready. They shouldn't be bringing them like that. They're putting us our name in a bad place.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
Daminton is one of the most revered boxing trainers in the country after the success chalked with Ike Corty in 1994.
Right, that's it for sports. And Manchester United's game away to Burnley is locked at 0-0. And they've done nearly 30 minutes of the action. Of course, you can follow us on all the social media platforms. Joy Sports GH on Twitter, Joy Sports on Facebook, Joy Sports GH on Instagram. You can read more sports at myjoyonline.com/sports. My name is Hans Mensando. Many thanks for your time.
The survival rate of a number of premature babies born in the Upper West region is increasing. This is attributed to the successful rollout and adoption of the Kangaroo Mother Care Program in the absence of incubators. Under the KMC, babies delivered before their due date are strapped to the chest of their mothers to enable skin-to-skin care, proper breathing with the support of the mother's heartbeat, as well as keeping them warm with their body temperature until the time when they can survive on their own. This is one among many other initiatives UNICEF Ghana is collaborating with the Ghana Health Service aimed at reducing child mortality in Ghana. MFA Tiamwa Eli interacted with one of such mothers and some health experts behind the success of the program in sending this report.
I'm currently at the Golu District Hospital and I'm with a new mother. Her name is Justina. Justina had her baby at 7 months and technically that's a preterm baby. But guess what? As we speak, the baby weighs about how?
5.7.
Okay, so at birth, he weighed just a little above 2.1, but now he's above 5. That's a good news because before, most people would be so anxious and worried if you had a baby at that weight and you'd be wondering whether the baby will survive at all. Justina's story is a testimony to what can happen with the KMC programming, which is the Kangaroo method of taking care of premature babies, and they are equally able to survive like any other child. His name is Raphael.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
How was the process for you before you gave birth and all of that?
I had labor, like it pains me like midnight. I was able to be in the house early morning. I came to hospital. The nurses said my time wasn't up. So I was feeling like pushing, but the nurses they were also surprised because of my time. That is not up, but I just felt like pushing her. When I entered to urinate, some plenty water came out from me. So the nurses rushed in, and the baby came with force. And that was how I just delivered. And when because it's 4 weeks, it was preterm, and the weight was not up to the normal weight. So they rushed into.
So you came? You pushed the baby, your baby came, and they weighed him, and they said he was 2.1, meaning that he weighed less than the normal weight. How did you feel about that revelation?
I was sad because this is my first one, and I was thinking like I would lose my child, but I was encouraged by some of the nurses that, I shouldn't worry, by His grace they will be able to save my child from me. That was how I was able to have the courage. And
Yeah, so at 2 months, he's 2 months now. Yeah. I can see he looks very big. What kind of comments or reactions do you get from your neighbors or community members, even family members, seeing where you came from?
At the beginning, no, because the baby was too small that even if you yourself see him, you would be happy, but you can't throw him away. They would just say, look at this small baby. That he's too small. This one, is he a baby? So anybody hearing this about your child, you feel sad. But because of the encouragement I got from the nurses, I was okay. And gradually.
Your faith has worked. Okay, so now tell me a bit about the KMC process. How tiring, how exciting, how difficult or easy was it for you? And for how long did you have to be in hospital with a baby before you were allowed to go home and continue managing him?
At the beginning, I saw it as I was always tired. But it came to a time I was developing love for it because it was my baby's body attached to mine, so I always feel very happy. I was here up to 5 days, and when I went home, I continued. It was 1 month, and I was now okay.
I can see your baby is gaining a lot of weight now.
Yes.
Are you adding any other form of feeding, or it is just the breast milk?
It's only the breast milk, and I don't wait for him to cry before I feed him.
Okay.
I always feed him anytime he's awake, and anytime I feel like it's time for me to feed him. I always feed him.
I can see Raphael wants to take hold of the microphone. Maybe he wants to tell his story. Hello, Raphael. Say hello to us. Hello.
That'll be all for Joynews Prime for this evening. Up next, we're bringing you PM Express with Aisha Ibrahim, and they're discussing the 8th Parliament, the bagging factor. Do stay tuned in. My name is Israel. Have a good evening.